Divorce is arguably the largest financial risk a person can have that you can't insure against. You could insure against death, disability, but divorce, and no one plans for divorce, right? We have 13 provinces and territories in Canada. They all have slightly different rules. So you need to understand what's applicable for you.
In 2026, protecting your life cycle assets and net worth during a marital dissolution requires moving past raw emotional debates to executive, proactive, jurisdiction-specific wealth strategies.
Don't just sort of crawl into your shell and panic and get paralyzed and sort of do a few searches online. At some point, talk to a human, talk to an advisor, ask them if they have their certified financial planner designation.
Hello everyone, this is Kripa Anand and welcome to the She and Success podcast, a national platform spotlighting powerful women who are shaping the future of business, leadership and impact across Canada. Here we bring you real stories, bold journeys and conversations that inspire growth, visibility and success. Today we are breaking down the intricate structural mechanics of asset division, immediate estate plan restructuring and post-separation risk mitigation engineering. In 2026, protecting your life cycle assets and net worth during a marital dissolution requires moving past raw emotional debates to executive, proactive, jurisdiction-specific wealth strategies that secure individual liquidity and shield your beneficiaries from catastrophic legal exposure. Joining us in studio today is Christine Van Cauwenberghe, the head of financial planning at IG Wealth Management. Christine is an elite Canadian tax and estate pioneer with over 2 decades of senior wealth advisory pedigree. Prior to her executive leadership at IG, which is currently celebrating its 100th anniversary, she practiced tax law in Winnipeg, specializing in navigating high net worth operational complexities. She is also the renowned author of the annual national publication Wealth Planning Strategies for Canadians and an advocate for vulnerable individuals through her extensive work with Alzheimer's Society. So, before further ado, let's welcome this very special guest. Christine, welcome to the podcast. Such a pleasure to have you with us.
Thanks very much for the invitation. I enjoy our discussions and I love your platform, so thanks for the opportunity.
You're too kind. I'm looking forward to this conversation today, Christine. Now, when a marriage breaks down, the entire situation is almost framed in strictly emotional or, immediate legal custody terms, causing couples to completely neglect the long-term divisions of, their assets. So let's start the conversation by understanding why is it so critical to view a separation financially and what exactly are the risks of DIY splits without advisors? Go ahead.
Well, obviously, a divorce or a separation is a hugely emotional situation, and I can imagine that most people are more concerned about their family and those sorts of consequences, which is fair. But it does have significant financial consequences. In fact, a divorce is arguably the largest financial risk a person can have that you can't insure against. Right. You could insure against death, disability, but divorce, and no one plans for divorce, right? So you do need to think about it. And I realize that there are AI tools out there, but they often sort of oversimplify things and they don't look at your personal situation. First of all, I don't recommend that people start putting in their personal data into an AI tool unless it's, it's a private one. Mm-hmm. And secondly, that a lot of the information, it may come from the US or a different jurisdiction. We have 13 provinces and territories in Canada. They all have slightly different rules. So you need to understand what's applicable for you. And thirdly, I would say, people don't realize what long-term implications a separation or divorce can have. They're mostly concerned about, I have to sell the house or, the day-to-day, but what about your retirement? What about insurance? All of those things. Right. And it's so overwhelming that I do think it's important to speak with a financial advisor who can hopefully give you some peace of mind, but also show you the risks and help you move forward.
Very well articulated. I think specifically during times like this, a third party perspective is very important to, see clearly. I think relying on unvetted assumptions instead of localized professional asset division negotiations can permanently cripple your financial status and erase your retirement runway, as you mentioned as well. And very interesting take on the AI aspect as well, because AI till now cannot understand the emotional aspect of it and the feelings, right? So we'll touch on all these things that you mentioned, Christine. Let's now explore, why does late life separation create severe financial hardship, and how exactly do you suggest couples should handle some forced home sales? Because home is something that is usually so close to the heart, you can't really decide what to do with it or where it goes. So, what's your take on that?
Well, I mean, divorce is difficult at any age. And I think sometimes people would say it's harder at a younger age if you've got young children. But I will say, if you're younger, when you separate, you have a longer time to recuperate and figure things out. I also find that when people are younger, they haven't built up the same expectations as when they're older. So when people divorce in their 50s and 60s, they have the nice house, perhaps, they have the nice cottage, they have certain lifestyle expectations that they don't want to downgrade. And that can be, a little bit disruptive because people are used to certain things. Now, I'm not saying you absolutely have to sell your home. There are a number of people who have the means to be able to keep all their assets and move on. But I will say in many cases, when you're dividing assets in two, there is going to have to be some give and take. And some people, they dig in their heels and they make statements like, I'm never going to sell this house or I'm never going to sell this cottage, which immediately puts you in a bad position in terms of negotiation because the other party's like, oh, they'll pay whatever it takes to keep that asset. And I know you need to be a little bit more calm about it. And that's why, for a lot of individuals, it's almost impossible to be calm. That's why they need representation. They need a lawyer. They need a third party to negotiate on their behalf. If you can keep the house, and I think there are some benefits to that as well. Like you wouldn't have to incur transactional costs and real estate costs. So if you can keep certain assets and you don't have to sell them, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But I think a lot of people, when they get past the emotion of it and they look around and they say, okay, I'm now by myself. My children have moved on. Do I need a 4,000 square foot home, or am I just, insisting on keeping this place because of what's happening? You do need to just sort of sit back and ask yourself what's really important, and are you foregoing your retirement future because you don't have as long now to make up the difference? So it's important to sit down with a financial planner and look at the complete picture and really figure out what's important.
That was very informational and very insightful. Thank you so much for that context. Christine, I'm sure when you're dealing with so many clients, so many different unique stories, right? As a professional, it is often usually difficult to, draw that line where you're not interfering in a personal decision as well. So how exactly do you deal with that? Where do you draw that personal line where you're not pushing too hard or pushing too less for anything that is related to the business? So,
well, I think, from a financial planner's perspective, the first thing we do with our clients is we actually ask questions. We don't start by throwing out product solutions or advice. It's like when you go to the doctor, they don't start prescribing things when you first walk in. So we ask questions. What's really important to you? What's your situation? Have you planned for retirement? Those sorts of things. We then use software. So we use the leading financial planning software out there, Conquest. We create what we call our IG living plan, and we project into the future. And then we present the numbers. And, the numbers are the numbers. They're objective, right? And if, keeping that house means you have to work till 65 or 70 instead of 55 or 60, that's your prerogative, that's your choice. But that is the implication of those decisions. So we're there to help educate our clients and inform them. We're not there to judge them. We're not there to judge if someone wants to live in a 4,000 square foot home or a 400 square foot home. Like, that's your decision. Right? It's your life. But we're there to provide them with objective information that will help them make decisions.
Thank you so much for that. That was very well articulated. I'd also love for you to touch on and educate our listeners on the importance of updating the estate documents, right? So why must estate documents be updated immediately after separation rather than waiting for the divorce decree? So.
Well, I think that a lot of people think they can't update anything because they haven't separated all their assets. And there's nothing precluding you from changing your estate documentation right away. Now, what I will say, let's say you had a will and you left everything to your spouse. If you change everything and you leave everything to your children, your spouse could still have a claim against your estate, and that would come off the top. But they wouldn't be entitled to everything. Your children would be entitled to what's left. So I think it's a question of, again, speaking to advisor, making sure you understand what's necessary. Some people don't want to change their documents right away because actually they're not sure if they really are going to separate. So I'm not saying you need to do it the next day, but I do find some people are paralyzed and it goes on for years and years and years. And, you do read stories in the newspaper where someone passes away and they've left assets to an ex-spouse and they're in a new relationship, right? So really, was that what you intended? So don't leave it forever and don't feel that you have to be absolutely divorced before you can move on with some of that stuff.
Very interesting. So what usually happens in those cases where, the new partner is there and the documentation was not updated?
Well, it depends on what the documents say, and also depends on the province. So in some cases, your will be impacted if you're divorced or if you've separated for a certain period of time, and basically the will is still okay, but you sort of strike off the name of that person and it goes to the next person. So, which could be your kids. But if you've got a new spouse, in some jurisdictions, getting remarried then does revoke your will. It can be a bit of a hot mess. And then there's also the question of beneficiary designations. So usually the beneficiary designations aren't changed. So if we've seen situations where a $600,000 RSP, let's say, has gone to an ex-spouse, the kicker there is not only does the ex-spouse get $600,000, but the deceased spouse has a $300,000 tax bill potentially. And so that much less is going to the new spouse. It can get very, very messy.
Wow, I cannot even begin to understand the complexities that are in such cases. To all the business owners, executives, and high net worth professionals listening and watching, in 2026, leaving your legacy planning exposed during a major family shift or letting old asset mappings sit unreviewed is a massive risk to your generational wealth. Christine and her multidisciplinary team of tax, estate, and financial planning experts at IG Wealth Management are completely shifting the wealth protection paradigm. Operating at the absolute pinnacle of comprehensive financial planning since their founding in 1926, IG is officially celebrating its monumental 100th anniversary this year. Through their advanced trademark IG Living Plan platform, they dynamically synchronize your complex investments, insurance holdings, and retirement goals into an audited, bulletproof defensive architecture. So if you are currently navigating a complex life transition and need to ensure your asset division, corporate structures, and legacy goals remain perfectly insulated across provincial jurisdictions, search IG Private Wealth Management today to locate an elite regional advisory group. Future-proof your financial well-being with the century of trusted Canadian leadership. It's time for a quick break right here, but don't go anywhere because when we come back, we'll explore the critical beneficiary updates that many people overlook during a separation. Stay tuned.
At Purolator, we understand the importance of every delivery, whether it's a document, a special gift, a critical healthcare shipment, or an entire warehouse worth of inventory. Throughout our more than 60-year history, we've honed our expertise to build out a powerful portfolio of logistics services that enable us to deliver on every promise. Whether shipping across town or around the globe, from small and medium-sized businesses to industrial, technology, retail, and healthcare sectors, Purolator serves a diverse array of customers. So no matter what, where, or when you're shipping, Purolator's expertise, experience, and innovative solutions enable us to deliver on your promises.
Welcome back to She and Success. Let's dive into how beneficiary designations can impact your financial future and why reviewing them should be a top priority after a major life decision. You also mentioned the overlooked beneficiary designations, right? So what exactly are the risks of not updating beneficiary designations on accounts and insurance during a split as well?
Well, beneficiary designations I think people think they make things easier, but they often make things much more complicated because it's very black and white. It's not like a will that says, well, if this person is predeceased, it goes to this person. And if this person's a minor, it's held in trust. The beneficiary designation is literally a line. So it's going to go to so-and-so. Well, okay, if so-and-so is still alive, it doesn't say, well, only if we're still married or anything like, right? It's just going to so-and-so. So it's very rough justice. And I think people think, well, I want it to go to this person more quickly. Well, sometimes they say, okay, so it'll go to the wrong person more quickly. Like, really?
Right, yeah.
I think in many cases, what people should be doing is they should be changing the beneficiary designation to estate and then having the distribution through their will. Because if they're not in a relationship, it's probably going to multiple people, multiple children. What if they're young? And by young, I mean anything under the age of, let's say, 30. It's not just, minors. What if there's a disability? What if there's other issues there? I think a lot of people get very focused on probate fees, which are only 1.5%, and don't think at all about the full picture. They don't think about income taxes. I already discussed the RSP situation.
Right.
When the highest income tax rates in most provinces are closer to 50%, why you're worried about probate fees? I mean, and there's some provinces where probate fees are zero. So, I think people just, again, a lot of this is cocktail party advice or AI or things like that. And it's oversimplifying what can be a really complicated situation.
Wow, I'm loving this conversation. This is so, informational in nature, and this information is not available, on LinkedIn or Instagram or, your friends at the cocktail party, as you mentioned. So, I'd love to touch upon how life insurance can help secure long-term financial obligations even after separation. So, Christine, how exactly do ongoing support obligations create long-term financial exposure, and how can insurance safeguard payments as well?
Well, the best case scenario if you're getting separated or divorced is some sort of direct payment where one party pays out the other and you both move on with your lives. But that doesn't always happen. And there are some cases where there's going to be an ongoing support obligation or someone's buying out a large asset over a long period of time. So then you have a payment risk there. What happens if that payee passes away?
Right.
Have you planned for that risk? And if you're relying on those support payments, is that insured in any way? And that's usually not something that the payee is going to just volunteer. So that's probably has to be part of the negotiation, part of the contract. Now, you might be the one who has to pay the premiums. You might be the one who has to take out the insurance. But in order to take out insurance on someone else, you need their permission.
Yes.
So, and are they going to agree to let you take out insurance on their life? And how's that going to impact the payments? So this is something that all has to be discussed in advance of signing it and anything. And that's another reason why I think, a lot of people say, oh, I just want to sign this. I want it to be done. I want it to be over. Have you really thought through all the implications of that? I realize you want it to be over with quickly, but it may not be the right thing to do long term.
Wow, thank you so much for that, insightful advice. Christine, you are so passionate about what you're doing. I'd love for you to, tell your story as well. How did you get into doing what you're doing now? Is this something that you, thought about as a kid as well? Life, insurance, the risks, or is it something that you stumbled upon in your career? So go ahead.
Well, that's an interesting question. When I was young, I didn't conceive of doing what I'm doing right now, but I did. I always like working with people and helping people.
Yes.
I also like math and finance and those sorts of things. So I actually was a tax and estate lawyer early in my career, and I really enjoyed helping families. But I will say a lot of that was after the fact, and so I was approached by IG Wealth Management to come over. It's almost 25 years ago now.
Wow.
And what I really liked about that opportunity is we have a multidisciplinary group. So it's lawyers and accountants and financial planning experts and insurance experts, and we all work together. It's not just lawyers or accountants.
Right.
And it really provides for better results. And working with our financial planners has just been, a privilege because they're so committed to giving their clients the best advice, and they're trying to be very proactive. And so their clients usually come to them early on.
Mm-hmm.
In many cases, their financial planner, they have a doctor and a financial planner. And if something goes really bad, they call their doctor, they call their financial planner, something just happened. And they call them early on and say, I I think we're getting separated. I don't know what this means to me. Am I going to be okay? That's the question they ask. Am I going to be okay? So you can well imagine the responsibility for those advisors to be able to say yes or no. And we work with them to make sure that they are okay one way or the other. Now, it doesn't mean there aren't any implications. You might have to sell a home or do something. But I think that a lot of the interactions for me have been more positive. And, obviously we don't just deal with separation and divorce. We're usually dealing with, intergenerational wealth planning, business succession planning, a lot of charitable giving. There's a lot of meaning in those sorts of conversations. And it's not just about picking and choosing which investment, which of course is important, but that's just one element of it. It's a much more comprehensive discussion. And so that's the part I really enjoy.
Wow, the work that you're doing is incredibly important. And thank you so much for, doing what you're doing. So much more power to you, Christine. Definitely, we'd love for her to be back, hopefully, for another in-person discussion very soon. But for now, today, Christine, before we let you go, if there's one final advice that you have for our listeners today, specifically when it comes about protecting your wealth, but also peace of mind, if you could whisper one thing into their ears, what would you say and why?
Don't just sort of crawl into your shell and panic and get paralyzed and sort of do a few searches online. At some point, talk to a human, talk to an advisor, ask them if they have their certified financial planner designation. So you don't want just someone who deals with transactions.
Yeah.
Talk to someone who's going to be able to have a bigger conversation, and they should be asking you some questions and being comfortable having that sort of conversation. They will help you. It will be okay. It may not seem like that at the beginning, but it will be okay as long as you get the right help.
That was very reassuring. Christine, thank you so much for being here. It was such a wonderful episode with you.
Thanks again. I just really appreciate the invitation.
All right, that was Christine Van Cauwenberghe from IG Wealth Management, a masterclass in navigating the hidden financial implications of separation, overhauling your beneficiary designations immediately, and the importance of working with an advisor during this process, and also leveraging the IG Living Plan with your IG advisor. To all the listeners, thank you so much for tuning into the She and Success. To learn more about how we are supporting women entrepreneurs beyond the platform, please visit the She and Success Foundation at sheandsuccessfoundation.ca. A very special thank you to our exclusive shipping partner, Purolator, for the ongoing commitment to supporting women entrepreneurs and helping them build, grow, and lead successful businesses across Canada. So I'll see you all in the next episode. Kripa Anand signing off.